Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Everyone checking in on Canadian MJ fresh out of the ocean. We'll look at US MJ tomorrow at some point. So we had a day where we had some bullish start, but most names ended with a bit of weakness, although not APHA. And we'll certainly look at that in just a moment. But starting off with CGC, so we have a daily inside bar closing at the low of the day, and the bulls are hoping that our daily higher low could be 43.93, but at this point, the odds are not looking too favorable for that to be the case. We have to change the hourly trend. And at this point, we had yesterday's end of day bounce into this morning's strength. We pulled back, and now we're just fading back down towards that low. So not very encouraging for the bulls to try and see this daily trend change at this point. And we are looking back down at 43.93 and then 43.02. And of course, if we break 43.02, it's just another lower low, keeping the consolidation intact. And we do not have a weekly higher low at that point if we are unable to change this daily trend. So bulls certainly want to show up early next week. We have an interesting scenario where Memorial Day is Monday, so the US is closed, but WEED will be trading. And the question is, can the bulls maintain that support a little bit longer and try and get back up towards our resistance levels? At this point, looking at the hourly, we've got resistance of 44.64, 45.17, and then 45.70. Multiple levels. Bulls have work to do. Cron's looking very similar with a lot of profit taking today. Again, the bulls hoping that the daily higher low is 15.17, but not a very good job of follow through today. Great start to the day from that bounce of yesterday, but then we just faded into the close with some increasing bear volume, and again, just not ideal and not building confidence. We don't have really conviction of any kind of follow through at this point, so we are still looking for a daily higher low to form. It was an inside bar, but that inside bar favors the bears due to the close at the low of the day. Still looking for a higher low. Anything above 14.45 would do it. The sooner the better, though, for the bulls. ACB, daily inside bar as well. Higher open, pretty tight range. So we'll just be watching this daily inside bar into Monday on the Canadian side of things to see the direction that it breaks. 8.27 is the first level of support. 8.37 is resistance. Pretty boring Friday after the morning pullback, where we had 5 hours of a 10-cent range. Certainly not significant. And looking at the resistance of the high of the day, 8.42 would have to break for these bulls to try and put a stop to this pullback the last few days. APHA. So congrats to the bulls. That was a very quick turnaround. And we had Jeffries with an upgrade of coverage, or initiation of coverage, whatever it was bullish. And we were in a scenario where a lot of shorts got trapped. Think of it in the inverse situation, where you have a blue sky breakout name, and, well, I guess it's not blue sky breakout because we weren't at all-time lows, but a very strong bull run with a lack of support really established on the way up with a bunch of green days in a row, and then all of a sudden there's dilution news. You're going to pull back really hard on that initial pullback, and it's the exact opposite here. So what we have is shorts getting trapped. Bulls jump in on that news, and there's definitely a lot of shorts. All you have to do is look at this chart and say, yes, there's a lot of shorts in APHA because it's a very clear downtrend, and any short is comfortable with their position. And so they got caught a bit today, and a bunch of shorts had to cover. And with where we made it in price all the way up to 743, we can say that anybody that entered bearish over the last 3 weeks would be in the red. So that's a reason that we have all this volume. It's definitely bulls buying, but a lot is short covering as well. The question now, what can the bulls do with this? Because we look at back at ACB, and ACB was a similar scenario, very weak, and we had earnings as a spark, and that was a big bull move for earnings. We pretty much made a 15% move almost, and it didn't do anything. We didn't get any follow through. So the question is this just a one-off move, and are shorts going to pile back in and regain control, or can the bulls actually do something with this momentum? And we know on the weekly time frame, we're not going to change the trend anytime soon, because anything under 10.12 and 10.17 here is just a weekly lower high. So the weekly trend is not changing anytime soon. But as we're watching for on Cron, APHA bulls are hoping this is our monthly higher low. Again, it's only one day. So we can't say much to it, but we can see the candlestick shape that is starting to form and say, okay, if the daily bulls can change this trend and get follow through, maybe that is our monthly high or low. So what we're going to have to see is once we top out, and it doesn't look like we've topped out just yet because of the strong close, but once we do top out, we look for the higher low and higher high to confirm that shift in momentum. And without that, it fades back down again. So the next resistance level we're looking up at, we've got 767 as the next major level. Checking in on TLRY. So the bears back in control. That one-off bull move 2 days ago on Wednesday didn't do anything. Here we are right back at the low. That low was 43.64. It held by 10 pennies, but we closed at the low of the day. And if that level breaks again, there's a lack of support on the way down in this area for TLRY. And the next level I would be looking at is down at 39.35. So psychological 40 essentially would come first if the bears are going to keep control. And it certainly looks like they will. Anything under 48.08 is just a daily lower high. OGI, so that trade worked as far as the entry yesterday at the end of the day, near the low of the day. And what I did, I was traveling today, so I just placed orders anticipating. I looked at pre-market, saw we were going to see a higher open with some SPY strength. So I put a sell order for half of my position, 3% higher than where I bought. So that triggered, and where I stand now, I have sold for a 20 cent bull move on half of my position. So that means my 719 break-even level on the trade is now 699. So that's what I view as putting myself in the absolute driver's seat of this trade and being in complete control. You can't get more comfortable than that. And I could put a stop loss at 714, 713 and still be profitable on the trade. And if, of course, we drop down to a lower low, I would want to be out of that trade anyway. Or I just patiently look to target the upper $7 area with that second half of my position. So pretty much any way that it's going to end up is going to be positive as a trader, which is what we want to put ourselves in terms of situations. So short-term support is down at 743. Maybe I'll even use that stop level to just lock in that quick gain. And remembering from OGI, we were playing it into the uplisting, sold up here, and the position that I rebought was 13% cheaper 3 days later, and now it's up another 3%. So that's also the ability to, if I were looking to establish a long-term position in OGI, which I'm not currently trying to do at this point in time, but that's just a scenario of just playing these volatile moves, and I could reload 13% more shares with the same amount of dollars if I were looking to accumulate longer term. So for OGI, I mean, coming off the all-time high, maybe I will set a stop loss, give the bulls some space to work with, see if we can get up to the upper sevens, pull back for the higher low, holding 715, and then try and make our way back to the all-time high. It would certainly take some cooperation from the overall market, in my opinion. We'll take it one day at a time, as always. TRST. Next resistance for OGI after 761 will be 8 psychological. TRST still weak. We are down near the low of 751 and 740. No bounce follow through, just upper wicks and closes near the low of the day. So the bulls have a lot of proving to do, and I can pretty much just say, because I don't have a position in TRST, that if the bulls can't break 867, I have absolutely no interest because it's just a lower high. That's the highest point that we've gotten to in the past 3 weeks, and anything under that, it's really not going to be impressive. So I can pretty much just write that off as I'm scouting for trades. If I'm looking bullish, I can, put setups that are closer to fruition on a list, and the names that, like this, that aren't going to be on my radar in the near term, I can put near the bottom of the list and don't have to be paying attention to as much. Hexo is still trying to hold 654 support, and actually we did break it by a couple pennies, but they're trying to hold that double bottom, and it's a bit of a descending triangle. Looking out on the 4-hour time frame, you can see the double bottom and the clear lower highs, 740, 710. We have a new one now at 691, just a tightening range, and we're going to have a break imminent early next week where we're either going to break the lower highs on the daily and give some conviction of a weekly higher low being established, or we're going to drop down through 652 support and the weekly higher low will not be established yet. Worth keeping an eye on Hexo, because if the bulls are able to shift this momentum in their favor, we will be looking at a pretty easy 5% plus move, even just to get back to key 740 resistance. It's well over 5%. So have to break that 4-hour lower high pattern. VFF. So disappointing go of it for VFF, just in the sense that we rejected from the attempt at continuation on this bull flag because it was not the right day for the bulls to have success on that breakout with how weak the market was overall. And pretty impressive the bulls even got to 14.15, but they rejected, and that ruins the bull flag setup a bit. And here we are right on top of support, 13.09. We broke it by 2 pennies. If we break 13 psychological, certainly not going to be calling it a bull flag at that point. Still not, a major red flag with the amount of bull move that we saw here from the low. We went 39%, and at this point we have only pulled back about 10%. So even if we do break 13, not the end of the world, but just ideal that the bulls hold that level, because the closer we can stay towards resistance, the better the odds that we get a break and some follow through. And looking at it on the weekly time frame, might have to top out and form a weekly lower high and pull back for another higher low here compared to 10.29. TGOD on the daily time frame. Inside bar closed near the low of the day, fairly similar to CGC and Cron with how their days ended up. So we're looking for the bulls to form a higher low compared to 385. We have short-term support of 397 and $4, and if that breaks, we're looking right back down at 385, keeping in mind that the weekly time frame has to change the trend for the bulls, and anything under 463 is just a lower high, and it certainly looks like we're potentially setting that weekly lower high at 428. So need further follow through with another higher low and higher high on the daily to try and shift this momentum. BGW, still in our tightening pattern here, looking at the equilibrium that is shaping up. Daily inside bar, if it breaks bullish and we get a bull break of 417, then we're going to say our daily higher low is established at 392. And if it were to break bearish, then our daily higher low is not established yet, and we're watching the 371 key support. So this is the kind of scenario where, because Canada is open on Monday, it's ideal charting wise for the CSE and the names where the majority of the volume is on the Canadian side. But when you have CGC being closed and the US side of things being closed for the major tickers, it makes the charting, again, it throws things off a little bit. So we just have to be charting where there's more data, and it's going to be on the Canadian side of things this week. It was on the US side of things last week. So we definitely want to have that data of Monday's trading. So if I'm trading CGC on Tuesday, I want to be looking at that WEED chart from Monday to see those details. Oils, getting nice and tight. 55 held. Good job by the bulls. They held that support by 2 pennies, 1 penny. So that's an ideal bottom fishing play. Your risk, let's say you got in at 57. Your risk is maybe 3 cents, as you want to put your stop below support of 54. So you're risking 3 cents getting at 57, and here you are up already 5 cents with potential for further follow through. So bottom fishing plays to stay in equilibriums are certainly a play that I take advantage of at times. And anything under 72 would be a lower high. I do expect to stay within this tightening range until at least mid next week, because I would be looking for a lower high compared to 72, and then we'll take it from there. Labs, daily inside bar, pretty common theme across the sector today. 634 and 626 support, as the bulls are trying to at least put a temporary stop to the high bear volume pullback. Resistance is 675 and 702. And we're looking for a weekly higher low to form, although we haven't even started weekly consolidation. So if we break the low of this week, next week, 626, that would break the pattern of a higher low every single week for the last 2 months. And that would tell us weekly consolidation is underway, and we'd shift our focus down towards the 12-period exponential, which will be in the mid $5 range by the time we get down there. But that's all dependent on this pattern. Do we lose the pattern with a higher low every single weekly candlestick, or can we keep that? And if we can keep that, then the bulls will remain comfortable in that uptrend. But we do have to be cautious if 626 does break. CXXI, this is that low cap name that got pumped on Twitter. Maybe it's got some good fundamentals. I don't know, and I don't care. But there's no sign of the bulls. So anything under 138 is a lower high. And the support levels are certainly getting few and far between. And we're now looking down at the gap to fill at 126, which is filled. So 107 is the next support level, and I would expect a monthly higher low to form. Again, not knowing anything about the fundamentals, I don't know what dilution is going on or things along that line. If there were significant dilution going on, that would change things, but it doesn't appear to be the case just by looking at the chart. But the declining volume would have me look for a monthly higher low compared to 62 cents. There's still certainly a lot of space between there, but as the weekly time frame fades and sees a bunch of red in a row and the daily time frame gets close to oversold, I would definitely start to be interested in oversold conditions. And it's the kind of scenario where any chart that looks like this, we can compare it to APHA, and the bulls really want to take a page out of APHA's book in terms of getting that bullish news. There's certain companies where their CEOs and their management team understand markets, and I would say that Curaleaf is one of them in the sense that they put out a PR blitz. They jumped on CNBC. That really established themselves as the leader in the USMJ space, and watching how they did that with their PR blitz essentially was encouraging to see, because it showed me that they knew what they were doing. And seeing a company like, or even Elon Musk, love him or hate him, he is watching markets and he understands markets. So he can pull off a 10% short squeeze like that, which he did earlier this week and was really nice for bull traders to take advantage of. But it's just understanding when to put out news. So the fact that Jefferies put out their buy rating today, or whatever it was, the upgrade or the initiation of coverage, that was timed, in my opinion. There's never coincidental timing. I don't think they're sitting there with millions of dollars on the line saying, oh, maybe Tuesday we'll put it out, maybe Friday. In my opinion, it's based on the chart. They're entering on weakness. They see a high short count. They put the bullish news out. They buy more to cause selling or to cause short covering pressure. And in my opinion, that is intentionally timed. So if I am a CEO, I would be hopefully understanding what's going on with markets and what it means for there to be high shorts in a position, and how to put out some PR news and get some attention to potentially flip the script in one day, just like APHA was able to do today. So anything under 138 is just a lower high, and there's a lack of support. Look at the closes at the low of the day. And we're talking 6 out of 7 days in a row, we have closed literally at the low of the day. And that's not something you're going to see often. And that's intentional, in my opinion. NRTH. So NRTH, this is a bit of a red flag. Not so much the pullback. It's definitely more than the bulls would like to see. They established their low of support down at 105. But if that's as much follow through as you're going to get on the bounce from that much consolidation, that's a red flag. We got up to 115 and then we pulled back about 5-6% from that high. So that is not encouraging that the bulls are looking, as far as the bulls getting follow through from here. They better show up on Monday to try and get their way back. They want to get up towards 120 or so to get in towards the middle of this range. And if that's it, and we come back down and break 105 just like that, we're now in a little downtrend with a daily little lower high and lower low, and a very key support level of 99 cents approaching. So definitely pretty disappointing as far as being unable to hold those gains, and just a big example of a gap up for selling in reaction to license and financials that came shortly after. KHRN, not a good day for the bulls, closed at the low of the day, and we are looking at 287 key support. What's the hourly RSI is the first thing I want to know. And it says, okay, if we break $3 on Monday, this hourly RSI is going to be getting oversold, and we're going to be coming up on key 287 support. So there's a potential oversold bounce bottom fishing play off of 287, and let's just say we drop down to 292, and I get in, and when the hourly RSI is 26, and I have a 5-cent space before getting stopped out, 6 cents, and I'm in at 292, all I need to see is a move back to 3-4 to be a 2-to-1 risk to reward scenario. So let's see if there's an oversold hourly bounce based off of this support. And again, we would just be looking for a lower high, not trying to be a hero and hit a home run, just trying to lock in a short bounce, which is exactly what I'm looking to do with OGI, although I might have convinced myself otherwise mid-video, but I'll have to make that decision on Monday. Although I just remembered I'm going to have my hands tied a bit as Canada trades on Monday, so I'll have to see what the Canadian side of things does. It's a small position at this point because I did sell half, so not overly concerned, and like I said, very comfortable. So I appreciate you all watching. We'll see what time I get out that USMJ video. It might be on Sunday. We'll see. I appreciate you watching. Have a good long weekend for those who are celebrating Memorial Day, and have a good regular weekend for those who are not. Here at the end, we've got a show, just a little wine bar in town from a couple years ago, and a guy killing it on the xylophone. It's not a xylophone, it's an African instrument. I don't have the name offhand, but I like the way it sounds.